The Israeli state rushing to support an openly pro-Nazi politician in Europe. In this case, we're discussing Romania, which just had an election, a parliamentary election, where the far right surged but was prevented from winning. They got 18.2% of the vote, 4 points behind the ruling Social Democratic Party. Now, the headline in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz is Romania accuses Israel of election interference after Netanyahu minister call with pro-Nazi candidate. Now, interesting. If you read the subheading, it notes Diaspora Affairs Minister Amichai Chikli, this guy's going to come up a lot, conversation with presidential candidate Călin Georgescu was publicised by far-right media in Romania and beyond. Georgescu has previously praised the anti-Semitic Iron Guard, known for its violent persecution of Jews. The phone call Haaretz notes was widely publicised, and the Romanian ambassador to Israel, who it turns out is an esteemed Holocaust historian, said that such conduct hurt Romania's close relationship with Israel, adding that Romania did not similarly intervene in Israel's affairs. Now, as Haaretz says, the far-right in Romania are strongly pro-Putin and pro-Israel. And in this call, the far-right pledged to move the nation's embassy of Romania from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, as of course happened under Donald Trump's first term in the US, and indeed, crucially, to refuse to honour the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant against Israeli leader Benjamin Netanyahu for war crimes and crimes against humanity. What is in this article offers a very useful explainer, by the way, to a phenomenon much broader than Romania. The phone call was publicised, according to Haaretz, by two types of media: far-right media outlets and mainstream Israeli media outlets. And why was this useful for the far-right? Because Georgescu is very correctly denounced for praising anti-Semitic Nazi collaborators like the Iron Guard, who slaughtered Jewish Romanians during World War II, and the dictator Ion Antonescu, one of Nazi Germany's key collaborators. Indeed, he called these pro-Nazi killers of Jews heroes and martyrs, and, as Haaretz notes again, has kept doing so even though Jewish organisations denounced him for it. The Romanian ambassador is quoted as saying, "For 31 years, I was part of the senior management of the US Holocaust Memorial Museum based in Washington. I find it shocking to see a minister of the government of Israel be perceived as backing, in a crucial electoral moment, a Romanian political candidate who is loudly and proudly glorifying historical figures who are directly responsible for mass murder of Jews," adding that his action is a direct insult to the memory of the Romanian Holocaust victims, both dead and survivors, and also a direct hit on all good faith efforts at Holocaust Education Europe and building policies to fight anti-Semitism based on historical reality, not on conveniently whitewashed versions which serve contemporary political objectives. It turns out that the Israeli state has a history of doing this with Romania. Last year, prior to the 7th of October, the Israeli ambassador to Romania, met the far-right Alliance for the Union of Romanians, who we're talking about, on the orders of the then Israeli Foreign Secretary. I mean, again, continuity there, isn't there? You have a far-right movement in Romania, which openly supports the perpetrators of genocide in World War II, and they continue now, in the here and now, to support genocide. Now, there is a pattern here. In July, Amichai Chikli endorsed the French far-right leader Marine Le Pen as excellent for Israel, declaring, "I think I and Netanyahu are of the same opinion. It's not a personal matter," leading to protests from the French President Emmanuel Macron. He declared support for Le Pen because of her positions on Hamas and, crucially, opposing the International Criminal Court, which, of course, as we have noted, has demanded the arrest of Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as claiming she's committed to the fight against anti-Semitism, which is clearly just based on conflating support for Israel with opposing anti-Semitism. Now, the Israeli state's closest ally in Europe is that of Viktor Orban in Hungary. That's a far-right quasi-dictatorship and the most openly anti-Semitic government in Europe, constantly portrays the Hungarian opposition as the pawns of George Soros, portrayed as the sinister Jewish puppet master. Orban was the first leader after the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants to declare he would invite Netanyahu to visit Hungary to thumb his nose up at the ICC. Now, back in March, the Israeli President Isaac Herzog, he hails from the Israeli Labour Party. Can't just say, oh, these are Israeli right-wingers, all the rest of it. Clearly, that's the political project. It's become ever more extreme in terms of the Israeli state and its direction. He's from the Israeli Labour Party, and he met with the far-right Dutch leader, Geert Wilders, who is a viciously anti-Muslim politician, wants to ban the Quran, floats banning Islam altogether. They did a cosy photo call together. Spain's far-right party, Vox, has visited Israel, and the Israeli minister, Chikli, who we spoke about, the diaspora minister, declared that they had suffered a campaign of delegitimization like Likud, the ruling party, of course, of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, and in turn he attended a convention of the European far right hosted by Vox in Madrid. What's going on here then? After all, the European far right is traditionally the bastion of violent anti-Semitism, as indeed the 1930s and the 1940s underlined, those murderers of Jews being lauded by the Romanian far right, which is the same forces the Israeli state is keen to promote. Now, clearly that anti-Semitism remains, but much of the far right also see Israel as a sort of bastion or example of European civilization, which is keeping the Muslim and Arab hordes and barbarians at bay, who they these days see as the primary enemy. Indeed, they particularly admire Israel as an ethno-state. That's why the US neo-Nazi Richard B. Spencer calls himself a white Zionist, praising the Jewish nation-state law of Israel, which commits to only the Jewish inhabitants of Israel having the right to national self-determination. So even though these European far-right movements are racist, riddled with anti-Semitism, that is not the litmus test for the Israeli state, despite claiming to be the protector of Jewish people everywhere. Now, indeed, the biggest killing of Jewish people since the Holocaust was committed by the far-right junta in Argentina, which ruled the nation from 1976 onwards. Jews represented more than 12% of that regime's victims, but constituted less than 1% of the population. Nazism was celebrated by that junta, with recordings of Hitler speeches playing while victims, Jews among them, were tortured, including to death. But who was an ally of that Argentine junta? That's right, Israel, which offered it weapons and military training, despite knowing full well what it was up to in terms of the Jewish population, with the chief rabbi there visiting the US to beg for help in evacuating Argentine Jews. Israel today sees its key allies as the far right in Europe. These are the same people who believe in ethno-states, in racist domination, in treating Muslims as dangerous enemies. And we should be aware of the fact that they look at how Israel has treated the Palestinians as a potential blueprint, fused with technologies of the future, including surveillance and killing technologies developed and exported by Israel. And yet, it is the left constantly being defamed and attacked and portrayed as anti-Semitic because we oppose apartheid, occupation, and genocide, despite repeatedly and correctly constantly taking on the very real evil of anti-Semitism, and indeed making clear we see the horrors of anti-Semitism, not least Nazism, throughout history for what they are, which is literally more than certain European allies of the Israeli state are prepared to do. This is a real menace, though. It exposes both what the Israeli state is in its current incarnation and the European far right for what they are as well. Please like and subscribe with your thoughts, your comments. Sign up for my Substack, owenjones.news. And if you want to help us expand, we're going to do a redesign soon, which will be the first stage of an expansion. Owen Jones, patreon.com/OwenJones84. We will give you a sneak preview. But yes, we need to expand for lots of reasons. You'll see what we're talking about, but in the age of the far right ascendancy, this is more important than ever. So yeah, please like, subscribe, share the video, and share and listen to the podcast. I'll speak to you soon.